Prehistoric Thailand, before 500 CE. Long before the rise of kingdoms, Thailand was home to scattered groups of hunter-gatherers who followed rivers and forests in search of food. For thousands of years, they left behind stone tools, hearths, and other traces of daily life, living much like early peoples across the world. But Southeast Asia stood apart in one crucial way. It was among the first places to cultivate rice. By 3500 BCE, rice farming began along fertile river valleys, such as the Mekong and Chao Phraya. Farming transformed life. Nomadic groups settled, villages formed, and rivers became highways for goods and ideas. Pottery styles, burial customs, and tools spread between regions, hinting at vibrant networks of exchange. Burial sites reveal early social distinctions. Some graves contain decorated pottery or ornaments, suggesting a growing sense of status and hierarchy. The most famous site from this period is Ban Chang, today a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Excavations uncovered pottery, tools, skeletons, and, most strikingly, bronze artifacts dating back as early as 2000 BC. These discoveries challenge the idea that the Bronze Age began only in Mesopotamia or China. At Ban Chang, people forged weapons, farming tools, and jewelry, proving artistry and identity thrived alongside survival. The pottery of Ban Chang, with its swirling spirals and rhythmic curves, remains one of the most recognizable prehistoric art forms in Southeast Asia. Its influence endures. Thai school children still learn to replicate the designs, linking modern culture to distant ancestors. Thailand was never isolated. Waves of Austroasiatic and Austronesian migrants brought languages, farming techniques, and seafaring skills, making the region an early crossroads of ideas and traditions. Indian and Khmer influences, 1st to 9th centuries. By the 1st century CE, Thailand's culture was no longer shaped by local traditions alone. Indian traders, monks, and travelers arrived, carrying new religions, political models, and stories. Theravada and Mahayana Buddhism spread alongside Hindu deities and rituals, reshaping kingship and religious life. The Funan Kingdom in Cambodia and Vietnam, and later Chenla, brought Indian-inspired governance into the Chao Phraya Basin. The oldest known Sanskrit inscription in Southeast Asia, dating to the 5th century CE, comes from Thailand, proof that rulers embraced Indian concepts of divine kingship and cosmic order. Urban centers such as Nakhon Pathom and Yu Thong became hubs of trade and culture, marked by Buddhist stupas and inscriptions. The idea of the Devaraja, God King, also took root, a concept that would later shape Thai monarchs. The Dvaravati period, 6th to 11th centuries. The Dvaravati period marked the first distinctly Buddhist civilization in central Thailand. Rather than a single empire, Dvaravati was a network of independent city-states such as Nakhon Pathom, Lopburi, and Yuthong. Buddhism flourished with monasteries, stupas, and symbolic stone dharma wheels, dharma chakra, scattered across sites. Art reflected compassion and serenity, with soft-featured Buddha images and innovative stupa designs that influenced later Thai architecture, including Bangkok's famous Watarun. The Mon language was recorded in scripts influenced by India, while inscriptions in Pali documented religious donations and rituals, making Dvaravati one of the earliest literate societies in the region. Trade thrived as Dvaravati sat along inland routes linking India, Cambodia, and beyond. Imported beads, ceramics, and religious icons show it was part of a wider cultural network. Srivijaya and maritime trade, 7th to 13th centuries. In the 7th century, southern Thailand was drawn into the Srivijaya Empire, a maritime power based in Sumatra. Srivijaya's strength lay in controlling the Strait of Malacca, the key passage between the Indian Ocean and South China Sea. Ports such as Chia and Nakhon Si Thammarat thrived as hubs of commerce and Buddhist learning. Archaeological remains, including stupas and monasteries, show that southern Thailand was both a trade center and a spiritual gateway. Chinese monks studied here before traveling to India highlighting its role in global religious networks. Trade connected Thailand to India, China, Persia, and even Rome. Persian glassware, Roman coins, Indian beads, and Chinese ceramics have all been found in the region. Rather than direct political control, Srivijaya's influence rested on economic stability and shared Buddhist identity. Khmer Empire's control, 9th to 13th centuries. From the 9th century, the Khmer Empire based at Angkor extended its reach into central and northeastern Thailand. Provincial centers such as Lopburi, Lavapura, and Phai Mai became outposts of Khmer administration, religion, and culture. The Khmer brought monumental architecture, cosmic kingship, and advanced water management. Temples like Phai Mai and Phantom Rung mirrored Angkor's grandeur, with intricate Hindu and Buddhist carvings. Reservoirs and canals boosted rice farming, supporting larger populations. Stone construction introduced new ideas of permanence and sacred space, leaving behind temples still admired today. Khmer influence reshaped religion, kingship, and urban planning in Thailand, even after Khmer political power declined in the 13th century. The Sukhothai Kingdom, 1238 to 1438. In 1238, the Sukhothai Kingdom emerged in central Thailand, remembered as the first great Thai state. Later generations portrayed it as a golden age of harmony and prosperity. Its most famous ruler, King Ramkhamhaeng, is credited with creating the Thai script, adapting Mon and Khmer models into a writing system still in use today. He styled himself not as a distant god-king, but as a father to his people, suggesting a more personal model of kingship. Sukhothai embraced Theravada Buddhism as the state religion, unifying its people and legitimizing royal authority. Art and architecture reflected spiritual ideals, with graceful Buddha sculptures and lotus bud stupas emphasizing serenity over grandeur. Though eventually absorbed into Ayutthaya in the 15th century, Sukhothai's cultural contributions, its script, art, and vision of kingship, became central to Thai identity. Thonburi Kingdom, 1767 to 1782. When Ayutthaya fell to the Burmese in 1767, Siam seemed broken beyond repair. The capital lay in ruins, the royal court had collapsed, and across the countryside local warlords carved out territories for themselves. Into this chaos stepped a remarkable military commander named Thaksin, of mixed Chinese and Thai heritage. With only a small force, he retreated east, gathered survivors, and launched a campaign of rapid reconquest. Within the same year that Ayutthaya was destroyed, he established a new capital across the Chao Phraya River at Thonburi, chosen for strategic security rather than grandeur. From this base, Thaksin rebuilt Siam. He used the river for swift troop movements, rallied men still traumatized by Ayutthaya's fall, and outmaneuvered both the Burmese and rival Siamese warlords. In only a few years, he had restored centralized unity. Militarily, Thaksin was relentless. He secured Chiang Mai in the north, projected Siamese control into Laos, and reasserted influence down the Malay Peninsula. These campaigns restored prestige and signaled that Siam remained a regional power. But expansion strained resources. Heavy demands on labor and rice led to discontent and rebellion. By the late 1770s, mutinies and conspiracies weakened his position. His increasingly mystical claims alienated the elite, leaving him isolated. In 1782, his reign ended when his trusted general, Chao Phraya Chakri, returned from Cambodia, deposed him, and assumed the throne as King Rama I. With this, the Chakri dynasty was born, a line that continues today. Though Thonburi was replaced by Bangkok as the capital, its brief role was decisive, serving as the bridge between destruction and renewal. Founding of the Chakri dynasty, 1782. When Rama I seized power, Siam was unstable once more. Thaksin had alienated the elite, rebellions threatened unity, and the kingdom needed a lasting foundation. Rama I chose not to remain in Thonburi, but instead established a new capital across the river at Radhanakkasan Island, Bangkok. Here he built the Grand Palace and the Temple of the Emerald Buddha, what Phra, deliberately linking the new capital to Ayutthaya's grandeur while avoiding its vulnerabilities. He reorganized administration, strengthened provincial control, and actively supported Buddhism. Temples were repaired, monks patronized, and Buddhist texts painstakingly recopied after the losses at Ayutthaya. Culturally, he revived literature and performing arts, overseeing the recreation of the Ramakian, Thai adaptation of the Ramayana, which became central to Thai identity. Reforms under King Mongkut, Rama IV, 1851 to 1868. King Mongkut, Rama IV, a former monk of 27 years, ruled as both a scholar and monarch. He believed Siam's survival depended not on warfare, but on knowledge, diplomacy, and modernization. He recognized the threat of European imperialism, as Britain had absorbed Burma and France pressed into Indochina. To preserve independence, he accepted certain Western influences. The most famous example was the Boring Treaty, 1855, with Britain, which reduced royal control over trade but prevented outright colonization by showing Siam's willingness to modernize. Mongkut was fascinated by Western science, especially astronomy. He encouraged rationalist Buddhism, reorganized the monkhood, and supported Christian schools and hospitals for their educational and medical benefits. 20th century transformations, 1910 to 1932. Chulalongkorn's son, Vajiravud, Rama VI, 1910 to 1925, emphasized national identity. He introduced compulsory education, founded Chulalongkorn University, and promoted symbols of unity, including the tricolor flag, 1917, representing nation, religion, and monarchy. Nationalism was reinforced through plays, literature, and the military. Western cultural influence grew, and English became widespread among the educated classes. Siam joined the Allies in World War I, earning a seat at Versailles and recognition as a modern, independent state. By the late 1920s, however, social change was accelerating. A Western-educated middle class of bureaucrats and professionals emerged, questioning absolute monarchy. Economic strains from the Great Depression deepened unrest. When Prachatapak, Rama VII, succeeded his brother in 1925, he faced mounting pressure for reform. By 1932, discontent culminated in a revolution that ended Siam's absolute monarchy and introduced constitutional government, ushering in a new era of Thai history. The 1932 Revolution. By the early 1930s, Siam's absolute monarchy faced growing pressure from a society that was changing faster than the royal system itself. A generation of bureaucrats, civil servants, and young military officers had studied in Western-style schools, many even abroad. They returned with new ideas about governance, citizenship, and national identity. Yet the state remained rooted in absolute monarchy, where royal decisions outweighed institutions. The gap between reformist visions and political reality was widening. The global environment deepened discontent. The Great Depression slashed rice exports and government revenue, creating unemployment and frustration. King Prachatapak, Rama VII, appeared cautious and indecisive. Although open to reform, his delays and half-measures failed to inspire confidence. Out of this climate emerged the Kana Ratsadon People's Party, a small but determined group of civilian and military elites. They quietly organized, aiming to end absolute rule and replace it with a constitutional monarchy. Their goal was not instant democracy, but irreversible change, ensuring that authority came from institutions, not just tradition. On June 24, 1932, while the king was away, the People's Party executed a swift, bloodless coup. Government buildings were seized, army units persuaded or coerced into neutrality, and a manifesto was read declaring the end of absolute monarchy. The speed and surprise left the royal establishment unable to respond. King Prachatapak faced a choice: resist and risk civil war, or yield. He accepted the new order, later stating he had long known reforms were necessary. By stepping aside peacefully, He preserved stability and became Asia's first monarch to accept a transition to constitutional rule without bloodshed. The first constitution created an elected assembly, though in practice politics remained dominated by military and bureaucratic elites. Still, centuries of divine kingship had ended. Ceremonies were scaled back, and in theory sovereignty now resided with the people. Yet fragile institutions, rivalries between civilian reformists and the military, and recurring coups quickly defined the new era. World War II and its aftermath, 1939-1950s. In 1939, Siam officially became Thailand, under Field Marshal Plaek Phibun Songkram Phibun, a military officer who promoted nationalism and modernization. He admired fascist models in Europe, adopting authoritarian policies and cultural decrees. Western clothing was encouraged, traditional dress restricted, and propaganda promoted the slogan Thailand for the Thai. When World War II began, Thailand declared neutrality. But geography made this impossible. In December 1941, Japan invaded Southeast Asia and demanded passage through Thailand. After brief clashes, Phibun allowed Japanese troops entry, aligning Thailand with the Axis powers. In return, Japan supported Thailand's territorial gains in Laos and Cambodia, though these victories depended entirely on Japanese fortunes. Beneath official cooperation, resistance grew. The Free Thai movement, Sari Thai, supported by exiles abroad and secret networks at home, coordinated intelligence with the Allies. Their efforts later proved crucial in protecting Thailand's sovereignty. Cold War Thailand, 1950s, 1970s. As the Cold War reshaped Asia, Thailand emerged as a key U.S. ally. In 1954, it joined the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, SEATO, positioning itself as a frontline state against communism. The partnership with Washington brought U.S. military facilities and aid. By the 1960s, as the Vietnam War escalated, Thailand hosted major American air bases, launch pads for bombing campaigns across Indochina. At its peak, over 40,000 American personnel were stationed in Thailand, the largest U.S. deployment in Asia outside Japan. This alliance reinforced the dominance of Thailand's military rulers. Field Marshal Surit Thainarat seized power in the late 1950s, establishing a pro-American authoritarian regime. He promoted economic modernization but curtailed freedoms. His successor, the Nam Kitakakorn, continued this model, ruling with U.S. backing, censorship, and suppression of opposition. American aid and investment transformed the economy. Bangkok rapidly modernized with new infrastructure, hotels, and industries. Yet rural regions lagged behind, especially the Northeast, where poverty fueled resentment. This divide between a modernizing capital and struggling countryside planted seeds of unrest. At the same time, universities nurtured a generation of politically active youth. Exposed to democratic ideas and angered by corruption, students became increasingly vocal. By the early 1970s, mass protests against military rule gained momentum. The breaking point came on October 14, 1973, when tens of thousands of students and citizens marched in Bangkok demanding democracy. Violent clashes erupted, but the sheer scale of protest forced the Nam to resign and flee. It was a milestone moment, proof that mass mobilization could topple entrenched authoritarian rule. Yet regional turmoil tempered hopes. In 1975, communist victories in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam revived fears of a domino effect. Thailand's leaders tightened security once again, balancing democratic experiments with military interventions. Culturally, the Cold War left deep imprints. U.S. troops brought Coca-Cola, Hollywood films, Elvis Presley, and blue jeans into Thai society. These symbols of modernity clashed with anti-American protests, creating a paradox where students wore Western fashions while resisting U.S.-backed regimes. Thailand's Cold War story was one of contradictions. Modernization and inequality, authoritarianism and protest, dependence on U.S. support, yet a persistent drive for national self-determination.